Hi everyone. So, because I got called into jury duty, I am doing this a lot differently than I hoped to, but we're going to do the practice test together. So we're going to start with number 1. This is from lesson 1, okay? And we're going to start with graphing. So with graphing, remember we use the XY table, and we're going to start with the same numbers every time. You don't have to use these 5 numbers, but I would highly recommend using these 5 numbers. And remember when we plug this in the calculator, first I'm gonna plug in my -2, and I'm plugging this in for x, okay? So in my calculator, I'm gonna say 1 divided by 2 times 3 raised to the power of -2. That's what it's gonna look like. I love that. I think it looks like hieroglyphics. Every time I see that, it reminds me of that. But I want you to plug that in the calculator, and you should get 0.055555. So I'm going to round this to 0.06. Okay. Now you're going to do the same thing. I'm doing it over here on my calculator. 1 divided by 2. 1 divided by 2. Oh my gosh. I keep putting the wrong thing in. Okay. And then parenthesis 3 raised to the power of -1. So now you're just plugging -1 in. And I got 0.16666, so 0.17. Now if I plug in 0, I think I can do these in my head. It should be 1.5. No. If I plug in 0, it should be 0.5. Maybe I shouldn't do this in my head. And then if I plug in 1, that's going to be 1.5. Please check me on this. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. Parenthesis, I'm checking, 3. Yes, 1.5. And then 2 is going to be, so 3 squared is 9 divided by 2. So it should be 4.5. Okay, now let's graph this. So remember, x is always left or right, just depending on if it's negative or positive. And y is always either up or down. It looks like all of my y's are positive. So every single y value, we're actually going to be going up. And then for your first 2 x values here, we're going left, okay? For your, and then here, we're not going left or right at all. And then here, we're going to the right because they're positive, okay? So my first point, I'm going left 2 and up 0.06. So left 2 means we're going left 2. And then up 0.06 is like barely up anything at all. This is saying left 1. So left 1, and then up 0.17. So it's a little higher than 0.06, but not much. And then 0, 0.5. This is half. 0.5 is 1/2. And then 1, 1.5. Remember I told you to think about this in like dollars? So it's like $1.50, right? This is like $4.50. This is like 6 pennies. So when you're thinking 6 pennies, you have pretty much nothing, which is why when we go left 2, we're going to go up just barely anything. And then right 2 up 4.5. Okay, remember this graph? Remember we have the asymptote, such a weird word, and it's going to be here. It's always at 0 in our case, not always for every graph, but for every graph I've taught, it'll be at 0. And then this graph gets really close to 0, but never crosses it. That's what an asymptote is. And it goes forever to the right. Okay. Number 2. So we're going to do our table again, the XY table with -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then we're going to plug in. So if I plug in -2, I'm going to do this in my calculator. -2, parentheses 0.7. I don't know why I wrote 0.2. And then raised to the power of x. And x in this case, this x is -2. And that's what I'm plugging in to x right there. Okay. And I'm going to put that in my calculator. So -2. -2, parentheses 0.7, and then raised to the power of -2. And that should give you -4.081. So I'm just going to say 0.8. And if I plug in -1, you're just going to substitute this x now with -1. -2, parentheses 0.7, raised to the power of -1, which is negative 2.86 because it says 857, so I'm going to round. And then if it's to the 0 power, okay, it should be -2 when you plug it in. And then, sorry, I'm doing this on my phone calculator, which is, I would not recommend. It's definitely harder to do. And then next one, last one, we're going to plug in 2. -2 times. And then 0.7 raised to the power of 2. And then it's negative 0.98. Okay, so I'm going to graph all these. Again, so this is going left, okay? This is going right because they're positive. Remember, X is always either left or right, and Y is either up or down. But in this case, all of these are going down because all of them are negative, right? So every single time we're going to be going down for my Y. So I'm going to be going left 2, so left 2, right? And then down negative 4.08. So think about it as $4.08. So it's not -4. It's a little more than -4. -1, negative 2.86 is somewhere in between -2 and -3. It doesn't have to be perfect. 0, -2 means we don't go left or right at all, but we go down 2. 1, -1.4 is about right here. And then 2, -0.98 is almost -1. And just like this problem over here, we're going to do our asymptote at 0 right here. It's always going to be at this place. Okay, and then this graph's going to get really, really close to it, but never cross. Okay, there we go. So those two are your graphing.